Welcome back to the Paranormal Roundup, the series where we give you guys the rundown on the biggest stories in the paranormal community. Now today, we've got an absolutely huge one.
It's freaking massive.
It is. It's literally made national news with a whistleblower coming out to confirm, potentially, alien existence. It is absolutely huge. A little over a week ago, the alien and UFO community along with the world were taken by storm when David Griss, an Air Force veteran and ex-National Geospatial Intelligence agent who worked at the Pentagon and was trusted with some of the US government's most intimate and high-class secrets, came out publicly to confirm the existence of aliens. Not only that, but to also confirm contact has been established between the world governments and even collaborations with these alien species.
What?
Now, David Griss quickly gathered a lot of media attention around the world as he did this initial interview.
In a News Nation exclusive, David Griss, an Air Force veteran, former member of that task force, and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Griss sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation and has spent years reporting on the UFO question.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
Griss alleges the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft for decades. He's filed a whistleblower complaint saying he gave what he calls the classified proof to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. News Nation has confirmed David Griss's credentials and resume. We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. He says he can't show us the proof for national security reasons. He also tells us he's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself, but has talked extensively with other intelligence officials who have.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
It's also harder for people to wrap their minds around the concept of a crashed object from somewhere else. It's easier to accept that, yeah, we see things in the sky that we can't explain.
Journalist Leslie Kane broke Griss's whistleblower story this morning in the debrief. Ms. Kane's career has been mainstream and credible, having written a series of reports on UFOs in the New York Times dating back to 2017. He has the credentials, but there's no documents that he's handed over. There's no pictures. And as a journalist, you want to see documents, you want to see pictures. Does that raise a red flag?
Not at all, Brian. I mean, you mean documents that actually describe the craft?
Correct, yeah, like government documents, or to be able to see it for ourselves.
Of course, don't we all want that? And the problem with that is all of that information is classified. You know, as we said in the story, everything that Griss told Congress and told the Inspector General of both the IC, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and the Department of Defense Inspector General, all of that information is classified.
In 2017, Kane reported exclusively in the New York Times that the Pentagon had a secret UFO program. 3 years later, the Pentagon confirmed her story. Her latest report is even more explosive, but Kane says she has multiple sources who back up Griss's story.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
So I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
And just within the last 10 minutes or so, the Pentagon has released a statement to News Nation about this report. They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. AARO is committed to following the data and its investigation wherever it leads. AARO, working with the Office of the General Counsel and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, has established a safe and secure process for individuals to come forward with information to aid AARO in its congressionally mandated historical review. AARO's historical review of records and testimonies is ongoing and due to Congress by June 2024, and AARO welcomes the opportunity to speak with any former or current employee or contractor who believes they have information relevant to this historical review. And Elizabeth, we know that David Griss, he's filed that whistleblower complaint. He's been on the record under oath testifying to many of these things that he said in our report tonight.
Right, and it's important to point out that this statement from the Pentagon from AARO, Griss is alleging that this top secret program is keeping it a secret from AARO. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if Griss what he's saying is true, you know, the spokespeople, all of those folks at that level wouldn't even know this was going on anyway.
All right, I got to ask you, you know, he has a compelling story to tell. Very little of it seems like firsthand knowledge. Isn't he just repeating what somebody else has told him or somebody else has showed him?
Yes, that is what he's doing, but he says he's talked to a number of people who are in very, very high-level positions. He also had basically the highest level of classified material information that he was able to receive. We went back and checked over, you know, his history, all of his credentials. Check out completely. Unfortunately,
in addition, a couple people have come forward publicly to vouch for him, people who are high-ranking.
They have, and this article first came out this morning, and I think it's interesting that, you know, there hasn't been any sort of effort to discredit what he has said either from the Defense Department.
So interesting. So what happens, you know, and have we had any reaction, by the way, from members of Congress who have been taking this seriously in the last couple of years? We've seen congressional hearings, we've seen NASA's hearing just about a week ago on UFOs or UAPs, whatever you prefer to call them. We've seen the DNI give a briefing to the White House on this. We've been hearing whispers and rumors for years. I remember even former President Trump, when he was in office, sort of saying, oh my gosh, if you knew what I knew about UFOs.
Yeah.
So there's always been this intrigue.
There has, and think about it, Elizabeth, if you go back 15 or 20 years, if we were sitting here talking about UFOs, people would think that we were nutty. Now it's gotten to the level of where it is somewhat accepted because the government has come forward to a certain extent and acknowledged that there are these videos that exist. The Navy has released the videos themselves and said, we're not sure exactly what this is that we're seeing. Of course, what Griss is saying really just sort of takes it to the next level.
Boy, it sure does. It's almost impossible to believe. All right.
What's important to note from this interview, though, that Griss states he's never seen a UFO or alien technology for himself and has only had, quote, extensive conversations with those who have.
Is this a whistleblowing opportunity that he's taken, or is he just gossiping?
Well, this is what people are trying to find out at the moment. He even goes as far as to say in the interview that when certain operatives were sent to retrieve the quote crafts, there were quote malevolent events.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he kind of alluded to the fact that there were fatalities on the human side.
No.
From these malevolent events, and also from these other species side.
What?
Yes. Supposedly, this is kind of... He didn't actually say that. You read between the lines with that one a little bit.
Right, okay.
What's also very interesting is that even when the White House were asked during a press conference about this whistleblower, they can be seen to dodging the question instead of confirming or denying.
Real quick though, this whistleblower report alleging that the U.S. military's been retrieving craft of non-human origin for at least several decades. Are we alone? And if we were not, would you even tell us?
I would refer that question to the Department of Defense and let them answer that question for you. Go ahead.
So maybe there is a bit of truth in it.
Maybe, but this is very White House government-esque thing to do, isn't it? You don't confirm or deny, and that way you don't cause any speculation at all. With the world watching this huge, potentially life-changing breaking news, people of course looked into the story and the possibility of Grush lying. Like this channel, Dr. G, who read Grush's body language during his interview.
What we're going to watch now is part of an exclusive interview with News Nation. We're going to look closely at his body language, and I do want you to keep in mind, he was part of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, so he does have legitimacy. So before the interview even begins, something you're going to notice is that his lips are pursed. Now what this can mean is it can mean lack of confidence, it can also mean stress, anxiety, or concern. Now, he's getting ready to do an interview on television, he's getting ready to talk about what he says are government secrets. That could make somebody feel any of those ways, but I just want you to keep in mind how this is starting.
On secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US Defense and Intelligence Establishment.
Yes, I was.
So we're seeing a slight smile. That could be a nervous smile, it could be socially appropriate behavior, or it could be that he is preparing to deceive. We're going to have to see which one it is.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
So right now he's nodding his head along with yes, as he's acknowledging that he's trusted with secrets. He's U.S. intelligence, so of course he's been trusted with secrets. I'd be shocked if he wasn't trusted with secrets. So that is true. And I want you to keep in mind that he does nod his head when he's saying yes, and sometimes he shakes his head when saying no. This can be very important. It sounds like a small point, but it's something that's going to be very consequential as we continue to watch this interview. Let's just watch it again.
Sit with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grush sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation.
The end of your time on the UAP task force.
The UAP task force has refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
So we're seeing the pursing of the lips. We're seeing the corners of the mouth go back. This is oftentimes associated with anxiety, concern, things like that. Now, once again, he's saying things that he says are secrets, so maybe that's no shock. But I just want you to keep track of all the little body language pieces that we're seeing. Okay, let's watch it again.
Has refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
Now, this is where it starts to be questionable as to whether or not his head shakes are consistent with what he's saying. So watch this again.
Human origin technical vehicles.
Now right now his head's sort of bobbing, so you can't really say it's nodding or shaking at this point.
Vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
All right, so he was shaking his head, call it spacecraft if you will. Now maybe he was doing that for emphasis. Or maybe he was suggesting no as he's talking about spacecraft. Let's keep watching.
Non-human, exotic origin, vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current former senior intelligence officers that came to me.
Now we're starting to see head shakes as he's talking about this, about current and former senior officers coming to him. That starts to seem a little bit more like he's not agreeing with what he's saying. Let's watch this again.
Me, I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it.
When he says, I've never heard of it.
Part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard.
Him arching his eyebrows like that is consistent with him talking about something that did surprise him.
Heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was in fact a program that the UAP task.
So after he said that they provided me documents and hard proof, he did a hard swallow. Oftentimes we associate that with very significant amounts of stress. Does that necessarily mean he's lying? No, but we do oftentimes see it with deceitful behavior because people feel anxious after saying that. Maybe he feels anxious for another reason, but I can say pretty conclusively that that hard swallow after saying that would be associated with stress. Let's watch that again.
And they provided me documents and other proof that there was in fact a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
If you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying intelligence representative at a high level from the U.S. government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points.
All right, now, this was from behind, but watch this. He says, absolutely the data points. Just watch his head here.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely the data points.
Absolutely the data points. So that was a pretty clear head shake as he said that.
Empirically, that we're not alone.
The lip pursing again. Once again, that goes back to anxiety and stress. Does that mean he's lying? No, not necessarily. We oftentimes look for that in lying and deceit because people are stressed when they lie or when they're being deceptive. It could also be that it's stressful talking about or revealing secrets.
Do we have species of
Well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not,
So he's closing his eyes as he's saying this. I talk a lot about people closing their eyes when we're talking. We oftentimes do that when we're thinking about something that we don't like. Now, does that mean that he's lying? Not necessarily. Sometimes it can be used as a way to deceive. It could just mean that he's thinking about something he doesn't want to think about or something he doesn't like. But it's a behavior worth noting. Let's watch him say this again.
Sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And as we saw, it was a pretty vigorous head shake as he said, it's true. Let's watch that again.
As fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And the corners of his mouth are tight again, which once again suggests stress or anxiety.
So I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
So now you're seeing him vigorously shake his head no. So you might be asking yourself, well, if he's answering this and showing this body language here, doesn't that contradict what you were saying a second ago? Well, not necessarily. Because something that we see, and we see this on trials all the time, because normally I'm analyzing trials, is that when people are asked a question directly and they want to have a very strong point about it, they can have body language consistent, even if it's not the truth. So they can say no and shake their head very vigorously. It's that it occasionally spills out. Occasionally they don't hide it well.
Everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real.
Once again, there were the eyes closed. I am for real. Now, that could just mean that he's stressed talking about this. It could also be a sign of deception. It'll have to be up to you to decide what you think it is. So what conclusions can we come to after watching this interview? Well, he definitely had a lot of stress. He definitely showed a lot of concern. There were times where it suggested a lack of confidence. Does that mean he's being deceptive or lying? Not necessarily. But what it does mean is that it brings forth a lot of stress and anxiety, something that we oftentimes see when people lie. That's not the only reason people show that. What I find harder to get past is him shaking his head no when saying things in the affirmative. So do I believe that he's privy to information that suggests that we have non-human pilots that we've found? I'm not convinced yet. I definitely want to see more, but I'm open to seeing and hearing more about this as we continue. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of this.
This psychologist explains that his body language expresses that Grush is under extreme stress or pressure. But what he's intrigued about is the fact that Grush shakes his head whilst being affirmative. Oh. Okay? Which could potentially indicate that he's offering mistruths. He does say that he can't say for certain, but he'll be watching very closely to see if any more can be picked up on. So basically, when he was talking about it, and he was saying, I'm part of the Pentagon, and he's like shaking his head as he's doing it.
I have no doubt that this is true.
Literally, exactly like that.
Wow.
And you can see it within the interview, and he's an expert in this kind of thing, and yeah, it was a very interesting watch. Interestingly,
around the same time this was all happening, there was an incredibly compelling report from a police dashcam in Las Vegas.
This was intriguing because it all came literally within a couple of days of like the initial interview.
Yeah. So this is the video that was captured.
Before midnight on April 30th, skywatchers across several western states saw a bright fireball streak through the heavens. A police officer working in the Northwest Valley caught a glimpse of the colorful object on his body cam. At nearly the same time, a Ring camera in the area recorded a strange noise and what sounds like a crash. One family living in a ranch-style home had a much closer view of the object. Two brothers and their father were working on a vehicle in their yard when they caught a glimpse of a sparkly object as it came crashing down, then were hit by what they describe as a shockwave. One of the witnesses, a young man named Angel, has stated when the brothers looked into the yard where the object landed, that spot was obscured and blurry, as if by unknown form of camouflage. What they saw next prompted a frantic call to 911.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
8 News Now investigators have spoken with family members multiple times in the past 4 weeks, but each of the 3 times we accepted their invitation to do an interview, they didn't answer the door or their phone. These are some of the claims they've made in other public forums. Multiple family members backed up the story in an initial police report we obtained. Angel says they heard the patter of multiple feet in the yard. They later heard footsteps on their roof. They saw one of the 8-foot-tall creatures climb behind the controls of a large front loader stored in the yard as if trying to engage it. He got a good look at one of the creatures, he said, a greenish-grayish being with large eyes and long legs. He says he could hear its deep breaths, and when he locked eyes, he was, in essence, frozen in place, couldn't move. In the middle of the yard, where the object had crashed, then vanished, a circular impression was left in the soil.
Okay, where is this on your property?
Metro sources say the police dispatcher initially wondered whether to send a crisis intervention team to help the troubled witness, but then took the incident seriously. 2 officers arrived 38 minutes after the call, and by then had heard from other officers. They proceeded cautiously and managed some nervous laughs.
I ain't dealing with that.
A few days later, the family says 2 Metro sergeants returned to the scene to ask follow-up questions. The family says they also saw men in suits and sunglasses driving in a car with government plates cruising slowly past the house in the following days. Nellis and Creech have denied any interest or involvement with the incident. Metro has indicated they believe the family that something crashed in their yard. But what?
You mentioned, George, in that piece that, they were frozen because so many people have been critical of, why didn't they get their phone out? Why didn't they shoot the video? Do we know if there's even any video of this incident?
Yes and no. So there's a surveillance camera in the backyard. The property owner keeps that because he's got a lot of expensive equipment there. What we were told is that at the moment this thing comes down and crashed, this camera went out, and it was out for a couple of minutes. When it came back on, the object was gone, but the circle was there. We've been told by Angel in multiple phone conversations that he shot video of the creatures. We haven't seen it, and we don't know anybody else who's seen it yet, so maybe he'll release it at some point.
It's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, all over.
All right, George, thanks.
As you could see within the report, the young man who reported the incident claimed to have seen 2 8-foot humanoid figures in his backyard next to the crashed spacecraft.
Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is my first video. I'm here to tell you what happened to me on May 1st, 2023. I'm trying to explain the best of my abilities. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not making this story out for clout or fame. I just want to tell you what happened to me and my family. And I know some people are not gonna believe this, but each person is different. So this is what happened to me. Keep in mind, this is midnight and I'm fixing a truck in my backyard. At this point, I'm only with my brother. and I hear something fall from the sky. I turn around, the only thing I see is a big light falling from the sky, and moments after I feel a big impact and a bang, sort of like a big impact fall. And me and my brother looked at each other and we were scared, but when the impact happened, it was sort of like a shock wave, like an out-of-body experience. So to say, when I tried to look at the object, it was all blurry, not my vision, but only the backyard area. And I hear thousands of footsteps around me, and maybe a couple of seconds later, the blurriness was gone. And here's the footage of the body, the police officer's body cam, and here's the object I'm referring to, the light. Video. Here's a Ring camera video. You can hear the bang. This is around the neighborhood. So here's the video. So when that happened, the only thing I can see in the backyard is a tall creature, probably around 8-10 feet tall, very thin. So I called my dad. He went to the backyard and he saw the same thing, the same creature I saw. He told me to go inside the house. At this point, we all freaking out, me and my family. And here's the video where we were in the backyard area. You cannot see it too good, but on camera, but it's there. Here's the video.
¡Ay! ¡Permisar! Calmungarela, me canceles var eso. Kylo, cherro, que chitica. Kylo, cherro.
Moments after the video, me and my brother went to go pick up my tools. Then my brother calls me, and he told me shakingly, look behind the forklift. So I looked. Keep in mind I'm facing the forklift, and then I see the alien creature. So when I saw it, it was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature. It was a gray greenish color, and when I looked at it in the eyes, my body just froze. Like the same experience as having sleep paralysis. Keep in mind I'm staring at him, and I look at his whole body, and he has a weird looking feet and a big face and eyes, and you can see a big mouth. And I could hear his loud, deep breathing, and I could see his stomach moving. He would just stare at me. Seconds later, I could start moving again. And I start running towards the house. That's when I call 911, and here's the 911 call.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the police to come, and you could hear footsteps in the backyard area, and a loud whispering, like you hear whisperings. We were in the living room area, and you could hear footsteps on the roof. So we waited a little bit for the police. When they arrived, they told me I told them what I saw, and they were kind of freaked out. Here's the body cam of the officer.
Now, it's more than an hour after that bright light. Officers meeting up with the caller and his family.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard, or?
They see like a big, that's what they say. They see like a big something with light.
What I saw right now, I do believe in it.
Police walk into the backyard to investigate, but Metro...
So they went in the backyard, and one of the officers pointed at the floor, and it was a perfect circle. Here's a photo of the circle I'm referring to. Keep in mind, 2 officers came in my house, and one of them started running to his car, driving around the neighborhood, asking passing cars if they saw a light.
What's clear, they're taking this call seriously.
Hey, this might sound like a really dumb question, but did you guys see anything fall out of the sky?
Asking others what they saw.
I would normally discount it as nothing. However, seeing as one of my partners said they saw it too, only reason I'm actually investigating it further.
Goosebumps are freaking out. He started investigating that he told me his partner, she saw a light falling from the sky. He told me he believes me because her partner reported that she saw the same light as me. Now we're walking the front yard. Then the other officer came here. Here's a video of him talking to my family.
If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that.
So, moments before they left, one of the officers told me, if I see the thing again, to don't call him, just shoot him. And you can hear in the video. Here's the video.
If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that.
So they left, and we went inside the house, and we started praying. As we're praying, you can hear a loud human-like scream in the backyard.
Now, what's interesting about that is, we'll get onto it in a moment when we speak to the person who we spoke to, but they actually indicated that this young man, 18 years old, who's supposedly just seen 8-foot humanoid figures in his garden next to a crash site, was incredibly calm when he made the police report. But more on that soon.
We're not going to take this at face value though. We reached out to Paranormal Griss, who's been following these events very closely over on Twitter. Griss is well known for debunking false claims and information based on logical viewpoints and researching facts from evidence provided by witnesses and footage. This is what he had to say on the whistleblowing and the Las Vegas sightings.
I don't want to bust a bubble here, but let's start with the Vegas. You're talking about the Vegas incident, the UFO incident. Of course, that's a big reason why I'm on UFO Twitter now. It's because that's where all the news is. Like breaking news, that's where you learn about everything first. You read about so many different insights into things and documents and whatnot. You see everything. So that Vegas thing, that actually happened in May. And yeah, it happened in May. And what it was is, you see there's a body cam from a police officer. He had responded to, I think, another call. And while he was talking to somebody, there was a green ball of light that shot down from the sky, and it like kind of flickered, like it was like, I don't know, flickered brighter and then went, back and forth. And then it kind of fast forwards to, there's this 18-year-old boy who makes a video. It goes to a 911 call. He makes that 911 call, and he lets them know, like, hey, we saw, me and my family seen this craft land in our backyard. There were two 8 to 10 foot tall creatures that had got departed from this object and were standing there. And, it's just, and the whole time he's talking about this, on the phone in that 911 call, the only thing I could think of is, why is this kid so calm?
Well, all I can think of is, why have you not got your,
where's your phone? Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, and if I'm the dad, the protector of the house, I'm like, where are my guns? Hold on now. Like, there's no way I'm going to let some NBA, power forward be in my backyard looking like an alien, and I got to protect my family. Anyways, so the 911 call, I had some questions about that, just because I put myself in the shoes of an 18-year-old boy who has just seen something outrageous, right? Like the people have been talking about for decades. He is seeing it right now in his backyard, supposedly with his family, and he's super calm on the phone on a 911 call. So I was like, I don't know. And then it goes, like, the kid later makes a YouTube account, and he's made a video describing everything that happened. Right. And it has a little alien emblem, like an NFT. And so I'm sitting there, and it's called Alien Society 52 or 51, something like that. And I'm like, okay, things aren't adding up here. I'm starting to see some red flags, right?
Right.
Crazy story from an 18-year-old boy, and he's already got a YouTube video up, and his only video's out. And I checked today, and he's got over 10,000 subscribers. Wow. Since this thing broke off of one video that's got 500 and something thousand views. Right. So Ben,
we've been had, haven't we?
Right. Well, you guys know, YouTube world, it's very hard to get that mass amount of following in such a short time.
Yeah.
I think, my personal opinion, if you look at that ball of light, and I've tried, I've said this from the very start, from the first time I saw the video, that's a meteor. It's a green meteor, and I've actually posted a little chart that shows the different colors of the type of meteors.
I did see that.
Yeah, and I think the green one was magnesium, I believe. So, and I even posted as a joke, I posted, hey, a tweet saying, hey, breaking news, another UFO spotted in the sky. And it was just another video I got from YouTube. And it literally shows the same thing. It's a meteor going right out of this. Like, it looked like the same thing. Right. And so I was just trying to put out there, like, you know, James Fox and George Knapp, they both started looking into it. They were tweeting about it, even though I was saying, like, it's obvious the thing's a meteor. I guess they looked into it, and one of the recent tweets James Fox puts out is he said that it's starting to look like it's a hoax. That the police officer that he talked to it's looking more and more like this kid did a hoax, and he just went off a meteor that, you know, maybe he saw the body cam footage on the news or something like that, and just made a fantastical story, or he saw the meteor himself shoot through the sky.
Yeah.
But I'm leaning heavily towards this is a hoax, especially since I know, so, you know, and a lot of people still think it's real. I mean, it's still going, and there's like videos popping up everywhere, and people are like, "Oh, look at this." I might be wrong, but I think it's a hoax. There's a former DoD personnel who has come out as a whistleblower, and his name is David. I think I'm saying this right, Brusch. It's Brusch. And he's come out as a whistleblower. And matter of fact, the full interview is aired tonight at 8:00 p.m. here in the States. I think this will be. You guys will already be in bed, but the full interview is going to air tonight. And what you've been seeing over the past week all over the internet are the little clippings from News Nation, who helped break the story with the debrief, who was the publisher of the actual article of the whistleblower, right? Yeah. So now, that one's still up in the air, but there's so much that goes into this thing. There's so many avenues that is more and more for people like me is making it look like this guy might not be. He might be telling his truth.
Right.
But if you've ever seen the interview, he says that it's not stuff that he's seen. It's what people have told him that have held high positions within our government. And because he has really good credentials on paper, people they're not really questioning him. Right. But for prior service military like me, I have a little bit better understanding about military and how things work within the government, and so I kind of start seeing things at a different angle. And unfortunately, there's some things that goes all the way back to the people he's rubbed elbows with: Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Eric Davis, the whole Skinwalker Ranch crew from the OSAP and Bass days. I don't know if you guys know about all that. But it's about their secret access program that was that came out was ATIP. They called it that in the 2017 New York Times article that Lou Elizondo came out as a whistleblower in. Right. That actually had a lot of misinformation in it. ALSAP it's an acronym, was the actual entity, the Special Access Program, that obtained the funding to do UFO research. But really what they were doing were like paranormal investigations and remote viewing exercises on Skinwalker Ranch.
Wow.
That's really what they were doing.
I'm going to do this.
I'm going to tell you right now, it is a rabbit hole. If you take the stance that I take on this, because I connect the dots, and I know other people like writers for the New York Post, John Greenwald from the blackvault.com, all these guys, they've been connecting dots for a long time about this. And it just makes a lot more sense that this now new whistleblower has rubbed all the same elbows with all those same people who we think might be more in this for the money, not so much that he knows that there's these craft and these so-called bodies that he said that the government has access to. I think it's more so a guy that has been convinced by people like the George Knapps or the Corbells or Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, for To the Stars Academy. All those people have rubbed elbows with this guy, and I think that's his influence, and I think that's why he said he's never really seen him. He's just heard about him.
So, because I find it interesting that he's going to have a show. His show is going to air where he discusses this. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in the UK, it would have been, and this is why I'm wondering if it would be the same in America. In the UK, I think this would have been gripped before it was ever made, even closely made into some. It would have been internet gossip and nothing more. It would never have made it to a TV show. So it makes you wonder if it's going to a show, if the powers that be, who can kind of influence these things, has just been like, do you know what? We've got nothing to worry about. It's a load of rubbish anyway. Let him just have his 5 minutes of fame.
Right. Well, interesting enough, the New York Times, they passed on this, and in the Washington Post, they were actually still looking into the claims and probably verifying the background of all this stuff before they wanted to publish this article that was written by Leslie Kean and Blumenthal, I think is his last name, who also were the ones that helped do the 2017 New York Times article, ironically. So I think they were busy vetting this stuff and getting it back into, trying to see if his claims are, verifiable. Mm-hmm. And they went to the debrief instead, which is more like kind of like a UFO tabloid news. Right. And they went to that route instead, and they made a tweet, Leslie Kean did, saying it's not that the New York Times or not that the Washington Post turned us away. They were just taking too much time, and we were being pressured to release this article. Right. So the main question is, pressured by who? Yeah. Who's pressuring, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of red flags about this story, and so tonight's a big night. UFO Twitter is going to go absolutely bonkers after this full interview comes out.
You've got a busy ahead of you.
Well, you guys have a busy Monday morning ahead of you. I promise you. You're going to see all kinds of stuff on Twitter, and it's going to, like I said. But you brought up a good point. Newsmax, who's kind of a newer news agency, they're the ones that brought this forward, and then some other bigger like Fox News has made some comments about it, but it hasn't gripped a hold like you would have thought of worldwide, right? Like I'm sure you guys, you've got some wind of it, but it probably didn't air on your major news networks, did it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't on our main news.
I think it was.
Oh, was it?
I think it was.
Was it?
It made it on BBC News.
Oh,
okay.
Out about it.
It's probably more the fact that it was a whistleblower.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I think it was the controversy of.
There's a lot of controversy, and the more I've looked into it, just as a former military member, I just can't see why a guy would walk away from a civilian GS-15 job and potential pension retirement when he only had like 2 or 3 more years to do it.
Because he was, from how I read, when I read an article about him, he was doing quite well for himself. He was in a really decent, well-established job, and actually, if you're going to whistleblow, you throw everything away, don't you? So, and almost you think, okay, well, does that add to the credibility of what he's saying, or is there something that he's going to gain from this, like a monetary sort of sum, or like what? I wonder what the motive is if it isn't true. Yeah.
Some people, and that, like me, some people are kind of on that trail of like, and I've been asking it all day on Twitter, and I tagged Leslie Kean and the publisher of the debrief. I tagged everybody and said, can we get a verification on, is this guy, did he retire with a pension, or did he just throw away his entire possibility of a pension and a check for the rest of his life to become a whistleblower? There might be more, and the reason why people are like, why is that important? Well, it actually is really important, because if he didn't willfully retire for a pension, and he retired or left just ironically a couple years before he's able to retire, there might be more there than what people think, and I think it's a really important aspect to focus on. But instead, everybody's focused on the credentials, his past credentials, which are really good, and then obviously the contents of what he's trying to disclose.
Now, this clip was actually taken from our podcast chat that we had with Paranormal Chris. It wasn't even meant to be part of this video, but just because we'd had the conversation, he offered a very logical viewpoint on all of this so far, and actually asked a lot of questions that not many people are actually asking right now surrounding this topic, and I thought it was important to share another viewpoint on this. Now, if you want to see the full episode of this podcast, be sure to go over to the Spook to You podcast. There will be a link down in the description. Go and subscribe. He is joined by a plethora of top tier paranormal creators from YouTube and TikTok and the greater paranormal community.
And still more to come.
Plenty more to come. We've got lots of people lined up, so go down into the description, subscribe to that channel. You're not going to want to miss out. That has been the breaking story of this entire alien whistleblowing shenanigan. What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Obviously, we've tried to cover every angle of this. Have you got a different angle? Have you got a different viewpoint? Have you heard something else that maybe we could cover in another video? Let us know about that down in the comments as well. And while you're down there, be sure to jump to get the hell out of that like button, subscribe if you're new, and tickle my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload. And until next time, guys, we hope that you've enjoyed, and we'll spook to you later. Peace.